collaboration is got to be the most overused word in architecture right now. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like every time you hear it, you just want to cringe.
But it's not just isolated to like one thing. It's virtually everything. Let's create collaborative space. Let's, make sure this is more conducive to collaboration. Let's do collaborate. It's just like, oh my God, you're right.
Welcome to the Archispeak podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
I died in South Africa, only outlined my body in Tiffany blue. When I died, I drove right and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank. And you.
Welcome to episode 41 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And to start us off this week, we're going to reach back an episode and give you a little update on our contest winner. And since I didn't...
What was the contest?
The contest was based on our last episode where we kind of geeked out a little bit and talked about our hobbies and talked about my comic book collection. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to have a little contest to see who could guess how many comic books I owned. And so what I did was I took a little screenshot, and we'll have it in the show notes, of my comic base statistics, and it shows the total number of comic books that I own.
I think you meant comic book statistics.
Probably,
Pretty much.
lifelong, infliction, I guess.
Yeah.
So that grand number, by the way, is 8,526 as of August 10th, 2014. So going out for our challenge, our winner... Actually, we kind of have two winners because I didn't state
Because there was no fine print.
There was no fine print. So we're going to go ahead and give two winners. That's what happens when you record the show only a day before it airs and you don't have a lot of time to write the show notes.
Think about what you're doing.
We had the over and under.
Exactly.
Right.
So our winner without going over is Mr. Mark R. LePage of Entree Architect. And he gets a little asterisk next to his name because he actually guessed 1,500 pounds worth of comics. And so I had to go do a little bit of math and figure out what the average comic book weight is. And I'll have a link to the Wikipedia page for that. But it says that basically the average weight is between 4 and 5 ounces. And we won't satisfy Cormac here by going into how many annuals I have or collections and books that are longer than the average comic book and get into that level of detail. But basically the
super size or the giant size and all that other crap.
That's right. And I have some of those as well. So, but anyway, the average comic book weighs about 4 ounces. So 1,500 pounds calculates out to about 6,000 comic books. So congratulations to Mark for being the closest without going over. But I also have to give a shout out to Collier Ward, who guessed 10,000 comic books. So technically closer than Mark's answer, but he did go over. And because we had no fine print, we give them both shout outs on episode 41. So congratulations, guys.
So if you ever go to Neil's house and you walk into the kitchen...
Yes.
Don't go into the kitchen.
Don't go in the kitchen.
Yes. Be careful where you stand in the kitchen.
There are 2 tons of comics on the second floor.
Not 2 tons, 1 ton.
1 ton, yeah.
1 ton.
2,000 pounds
of comic
all
books.
In a concentrated load.
Potatoes.
Not
concentrated load.
Yes.
Over where he sets all of his guests.
Yeah.
No, that would be the dining room. The living room is safe. It's safe. It's just if you're doing dishes, you might be in a little trouble there.
Jeez.
Should have had your
So,
wife check your math on that one.
Yeah. We trust her calculator more than yours.
Yeah, exactly. So, so again, congratulations for everybody who, to the winners, and also for everyone else who posted comments and guesses as to how many comic books, and hopefully people are not completely shocked by that number.
Now,
2 tons.
everybody get your calculators
1
out.
ton.
Because the average price varies between $2.99 and $3.99 per comic. So go ahead
don't do the math. Now, Cormac,
That's just
you
depressing.
can't go there because I've been collecting books for like 35 years.
That's
And,
true.
the average
he
price of a comic book 35 years ago was probably about
He does
30
have an Action
cents.
Comics #1 that he bought from the newsstand.
No, I do not have that.
You
And for
wish.
those that don't know, yes, exactly. Action Comics came out in like about June of 1938, and I am not that old, okay?
Wasn't that 36 though?
No.
Because that was the first appearance of Superman.
38,
38.
yes.
That
So
wasn't bad. Yeah.
it was a few years back, yes. So anyway, so Cormac, since you're going off and giving me a bad time here, you got the next topic. I'm going to let you take this one on since because you were the first one to actually do it, although you were, I think, technically the last one to post the video.
Yeah, because you guys didn't tell me that you were posting it until after you'd already done it. Which I was the one who went through the whole rant talking about, we were challenged and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. It got really, really wordy.
Why don't you tell everybody about the challenge first?
All right, so we were, as everybody has probably seen going through the interwebs, that there's the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge going around like wildfire right now. And if, for those of you who don't know what that challenge is, it isn't just a bunch of crazy people dumping ice water on top of their head. It is to both raise awareness and raise money for ALS. And we were challenged by one of our contest winners, Mark LePage. And he called us out.
I think he was on his last day of vacation.
Yes.
Yeah. So, apparently he had nothing better to do, like maybe pack up a car or anything else. No, he wanted to dump water on his head and make us do it too. But we accepted his challenge, and not only are we donating money, but what we would like to do is anybody who donates money between the airing of this show to the airing or recording of the next show, we'll take all of that money that's donated to the show and donate it to ALS as well.
Yeah, so anybody who goes to archispeakpodcast.com/donate and wants to do it there, we'll go ahead and make a donation, that totals all those up, and we'll do it all at once there on the ALS. So it's just another way for you to do it if you don't feel like going through all of the filling out of the forms and everything on their page. When you donate, you can just do it on our site if you want.
Right. And if you don't want to do it through our site because, you don't trust Neil because he's going to...
No, whoa, wait a minute. I don't handle that part of the podcast's business here.
Neil,
that goes to Evan.
But anyway,
I'm very trustworthy.
Very trustworthy.
You got your T-shirt, right? Evan's trustworthy. He did that too.
Anyway, if you don't want to do it through our website, then we encourage you to go to the alsa.org, and you'll actually see a link there for donations, and you can also click on their link for the Ice Bucket Challenge and do it yourself, call out some new people, and keep this awareness going.
Yeah, I think this is a cool way for them this year to, I don't know if you guys looked, but on their website as of today, they've received $22.9 million in donations compared to $1.9 million last year during the same time period.
Wow.
That's huge, and that really shows the kind of the power of this viralness and people passing this along to their friends and really having fun with it. But at the same time, I mean, it really is doing an amazing amount of work to creating a world without ALS, so I think that's a big deal.
And my wife and I have commented about this because, we see them going on and all this other stuff. And before we really, knew what it was, I mean, technically, here's how it goes. You either donate $100 to ALS or you do the bucket challenge. So if you do the bucket challenge, what you're doing is helping them raise awareness, but you're really not giving them any money. And so we were like, it's a little self-serving, kind of ridiculous. But the more and more you would see those numbers that Evan was just talking about, the more you realize that, no, this is real, this is legitimate, and, this really is going to a great cause. And it really is actually affecting a change. So, I was just like, oh, I just hope nobody ever, calls us out, just being a little, cynical about it.
I was excited. I thought it was fun.
Well, and then we got the call from Mark to do it. I was just like, you know what? And even my wife was like, you guys have to do this. And of course, my kids were more than willing, just like Neil and Evan's children were more than willing to help dump.
Oh yeah, my kids
head.
high-fived each other in the background. So yeah, if you want to see our videos, go to our Facebook page, and you can see them on there. And you can see who we called out. And I have to say, we need to give Jess Stafford a shout out for wearing his Archispeak T-shirt when he did.
Absolutely,
that was very cool. So thanks, Jess.
And anybody else who we called out, if you are a proud owner of an Archispeak T-shirt, do us a solid, wear it.
That's right. And I called out the CEO of my firm. Let's see what happens there. I mean, I think this is a good PR opportunity for them.
There you go. You know what you've done,
yeah.
Evan, is your entire company will be going out into the parking lot,
I know,
dumping water on their head.
We're going to dump it like off the second floor onto it. Yeah, it's going to be impactful. Let's say that.
My kids were very willing, not quite capable of getting the water completely over my head.
I know, you're like down on your knees too, man.
I was down, and I
think you should have. Don't you have like a front stoop or something like that, or anything that you?
I think you need to do over.
Well, you know what though, concerning the drought in California, I didn't want to be out on concrete. I was down on the grass, trying to feed the grass a little bit of extra water. I figured I didn't want it to go to waste. So, yeah, unfortunately, the kids, maybe I should have had them stand on some chairs or something. But, they really couldn't hold that bucket of ice up for very long. So it was a bit of a challenge for them. But
if you watch my son in the background, he keeps like picking it up, putting it down.
They were like ready. You just keep on talking. You just kept talking. Yeah. You just kept like making him wait.
Jesus Christmas. Just shut up and let me pour it on you. But in all seriousness, if any of our listeners would like to have Neil do a do-over,
no,
make comments
Let's
on
vote.
our webpage, and if we can reach the magic number of one person.
No. I think we need to have like a pretty high standard here. If we raise
need
8,200
and something people to.
Yes, exactly. No, 8,526. Then I'll do a do-over. That sounds like a good challenge.
That's doable. That's a viral challenge right there.
There it is. There's the viral challenge. Match the number of comic books that Neil has.
Many likes on Facebook or Twitter or whichever one is closer to Neil's comic books, then
I will gladly do a do-over. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so hot out here. I don't think that I would complain about doing it again. It was like 97 today. So.
Oh wow,
It
had kind of cooled off a little bit here, but it was still cold.
I was so fidgeting because I was getting eaten up by mosquitoes.
Oh,
so
lovely!
I was just like, come on, hurry up! It's like, go ahead and pour it because Daddy's getting eaten up.
All right.
Well, speaking of being eaten up,
nice,
Evan. Why don't you introduce our topic for tonight?
All right, we are talking about collaboration and consultants. And we've had a listener write in asking for our thoughts on working with engineers and other consultants. And let me just read what they wrote. Sometimes it seems with the right team, everything runs so smoothly and they take pride in their projects the same way we do. I think he's talking about consultants there. Other times, more often than not, it seems like they just don't care or just trying to get the job done, end up slowing down the project. We have a new saying in our office that working with consultants is literally like trying to herd cats. And, man, I've got some good stories just this week on this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think this is a great topic. And so the purse word, collaboration, and everybody's favorite consultants. Let's do this.
Well, start us off. What happened this week?
Well, first, there is, I don't know how related these two words are. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, right? So collaboration is got to be the most overused word in architecture right now. It's everywhere. It's
yeah.
And it's like every time you hear it, you just want to cringe.
But it's
yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but it's not just isolated to like one thing. It's virtually everything.
Oh, yeah.
Let's create collaborative space. Let's, make sure this is more conducive to collaboration. Let's do collaborate. It's just like, God,
yeah.
You're right.
We've got collaboration rooms in new schools. We've got collaborative work environments at work. We've got, you're totally right on. It is overused, overdone. And you can tell that when people say it, they don't know what they're talking about. And my definition of collaboration, well, I won't say what's my definition, but it's a verb. This is a thing you do. This is not something you just talk about. It's not a noun. It's the collaboration is a verb. And instead of talking about it, I'd rather see you do it. And I think the other part of collaboration that really is getting to me is that people seem to think that the more people on the team, the better.
Oh my God!
And like our job isn't hard enough to listen to what everybody has to say and try to distill that down into kind of the essence and a solution. But we all know, I think, that we actually need less people to actually get more work done. If you have too many cooks in the kitchen, you've got everybody's kind of got their own agenda and fighting for that, and it makes it really difficult. And I think more often than not, you actually need one person who's kind of the dictator of the design, and they're going to actually make sure that that the vision gets followed through to the end. But
I feel like yelling out, "Can I get an amen?"
That's collaboration kind of in a nutshell to me. I think that there's a lot more. I mean, on the other hand, I have a really great exciting thing that we've been doing at work on the project that I've been working on, and we're already starting CDs on this project. It's just been a whirlwind over the past few weeks, and I've been taking time off of everything else so that I can do this. But we have this room, and we've locked ourselves in there. We've got all the walls to ourselves. We've got a projector. We've got computers. Everybody's hooked up, and we are face-to-face working on the project together. And when someone has a question, we address it right then. And everybody's on the same page, and it's working really well. And so in that aspect, collaboration has been amazing. But again, it's a limited, small, tight team. It is not anybody's invited. But of course, anybody can stop by and see what we're up to, and we can talk about the project. But it's not just kind of an open forum all the time either. So I have to say that I posted a picture on Instagram a couple of weeks ago about what I call the Revit War Room, and I'll take another picture before this episode goes live and post it so you can kind of see how it's changed over the last couple of weeks. But it's been a fantastic way to actually work, and people aren't off in their own little silos. We're all in one silo together, and we're totally kicking ass in this room. So in that regard, the collaborative work environment, even though I hate to say that, has been just amazing. So both the good and the bad of collaboration. What do you guys think?
Well, if we want to talk more specific to, I guess, the comment that was made by one of the listeners, and he was, I guess, being more specific to how an architecture firm collaborates with all of their consultants, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, those kind of people.
This is a multifaceted thing, topic for sure.
I think we could we could take it in so many different directions, and but I think in this particular one, you've got in our particular office, what we tend to do is we mostly work with people that we've worked with in the past. Almost every one of our projects,
consultant-wise, you mean?
Consultant-wise, are all people that we know, we're comfortable with. We know what to expect from them. They know what to expect from us. Even if we're doing something, far-reaching design-wise, or something very, buttoned-down conservative. I mean, they know, depending on which project manager, what they're going to get from us. But they also know that we're going to take the leadership role, and that we will guide everybody together to make sure that everybody has all the proper information, that all of the meetings that we sit down for coordination and everything, all of those are all generated through us. So if the collaboration fails, it really actually kind of falls on us. It's our fault, because we're the ones who've taken that kind of leadership role. Now, you can have somebody who's kind of a weak link on the project that may not, we've had in the past where we had a fire protection engineer, and I think we went through 4 or 5 different project managers. And just like you were kind of hinting to earlier, throwing all of these, throwing too many bodies at it. The problem is that because we had so much turnover with this one particular engineer on somebody who knew what was going on with the project, we were always playing catch up with that particular discipline. And it was absolutely like herding cats. I mean, it was, I'd have to sit down every time there was a new project manager, kind of explain to them, okay, this is what the project is. This is what your predecessor did up until this point. This is what we need. And then every time they would change it over, I would have to keep saying, this is where you're at. This is what I need. Over and over and over again.
Tough to take over.
And it's, it was kind of rough. And then you get the point where, and again, you were hinting at this, when you're, like, say, my boss starts to feel a little bit panicky about, are they going to finish this project in time? Rather than just kind of letting it go, let it finish up and run its course, sometimes they pull the trigger and say, throw more bodies.
Oh.
And when you start doing that...
Killing me.
Exactly. It's now, normally it's let's throw bodies at the project that are the youngest, most inexperienced.
Not only that, let's throw people who have no clue what the project is about, how things have been done, what are the standards. Oh,
right.
It's so painful.
Right.
Why? Okay, so I'm curious, why does that always seem to happen? We all know it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Well,
but what other options do you have? I mean, the project's due in 3 days. It's a tough situation to be in, but at the same time, like, it was improperly designed from the beginning as far as how much time it actually takes to get the work done.
Yeah. It really, I'll say you're absolutely right. The collaborative effort, and I don't want to overuse that word.
Well, it has to begin at the beginning.
So in other words, it's failed right from the start.
It's designed to fail, not on purpose.
Right.
Yes.
But it's
totally.
The person who's creating that work plan for it to happen is usually disconnected from actually doing the work. Right. There are people who manage people who do the work, and they fail to ask people how long they think it's going to take to do the work. They just write the number down.
Or when they did it, the way, back when they were a project manager or something, they didn't have Revit. They didn't have some of the tools that we have now. So
that's what I mean by disconnected.
Little bit of work, let's just talk about, like, let's say 20% of the work in DD, 20% of the work, or SDs, like 10 to 15, 20% in DD, and then the rest of it, effort-wise, is in CDs.
Right.
Well,
It's kind of
now
flipped.
it's a lot. It's more front end loaded with Revit, because you're building the model. You're trying to get all of that stuff.
It forces you to make decisions very early.
It does. It does. And I don't think that, especially with some of our clients, they're not ready for it. Their billing department is not ready for it, because normally they're used to only, say it, they've geared the way that they work. Okay, if they get their funding, well, we're going to fund it through design, but not construction documents in this fiscal year. And we know that it's only like 35% of the overall project. Well, the problem is that we're probably throwing around 70% of the overall project in that first 35% that they're willing to pay us. So, you're getting into an area right now where they're not fully understanding the way that BIM works, but they're still wanting us to stay in the old way of billing. When we're doing more work up front, they still want to pay us the least amount of work up front.
So then you're upside down on your time card, right? Because you're billing, in air quotes, more hours to the project than you should be.
Yeah.
Too early, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me how that makes sense as a salaried employee. How have I worked too many hours on this project?
Right.
Literally, just think about that. It's impossible.
Well, I think that there needs to be, there's that whole, we've started to embrace BIM. We've started to embrace the way that, and in fact, in many cases, especially in clients that, both you and I, Evan, work with, they're requiring BIM. They may not know what to do with BIM.
No, they just require it because someone told them to. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, honestly, I really wish that this last project that was, more historically bent, I honestly wish that I would have done it in CAD. Because there was too many things that had to be created in BIM that weren't, part of the out-of-the-box package.
Yeah, you'll never get that money back, right?
And we spent so much time doing 117-year-old double-hung windows.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time detailing things out. The coining in the brick, trying to figure out how the coining in the brick worked, how the water table, the cast-in-place concrete water table, how that was, how that worked with the whole thing, and all these different facets and faces of the facade, and we were just having to work it out. It's not that we couldn't do it; we had to spend a lot of time doing that up front. So it's an impressive model that we have, but it's a model that took a very long time to do, and honestly, to be quite honest with you, I probably could have gotten the job done a lot faster, probably with less people, if it was just a straight CAD job. Now, there's really no magic to it. Would it have turned out, the same? You know what? I probably say that BIM saved me a lot in understanding. It's like, oh, well, if I've got one building side by side to another building. And sorry, I'm going on this little tangent here, but so I connected two buildings. One building, both were 3-story buildings, but there were 7-foot elevation difference between them. So if I was the lower of the two buildings was where the boiler room was, all the piping that was coming through then had to jog up through the addition that connected the two buildings and then go jog up again into the other building. But as it came out underneath the floor of one building, it was, instead of it being in the ceiling plenum, it was actually coming midway through the wall. So it was like 7 feet off the ground rather than up in 11 feet. So then what do? You've got to kind of do all these things.
Yeah,
so
where a model really does come in handy.
That's where the model absolutely saved me. Yeah. And would I have probably seen that in CAD? Probably not.
Yeah.
And then I would have been completely caught off guard during during CA, and so that's where I kind of. So honestly, and who caught it? And so to bring it back to what we're talking about, who caught that problem? It was our structural engineer. Very good, exceptional structural engineer. Want to keep working with these guys because they were on it, and they sorry, they saw some of these issues, and they're like, hey, I just want to alert you. Did you know that this was what was going on? And we're going to have to put a big, huge hole in this wall. And so, through the collaboration process, through having a good team, we got a good project because, everybody's eyes were on this project, looking at it, scrutinizing over it, double checking each other's work, making sure everybody was picking up everything.
That's great when everyone's working in Revit.
Yeah.
Before I go there.
What was interesting, though, is that they didn't produce their documents, or they didn't do their details in Revit, but they did model it to make sure everything worked right.
Yeah. Clash protection.
It was a hybrid project. They did a lot of, most of our consultants at that time, they did, they did all of their work in CAD. And, let me ask you, have you recognized that in some of our consultants, they'll actually ask for more money to do a BIM project rather than a CAD project?
Oh, totally.
It's
ridiculous at this day and age.
Which is hilarious because, not only is it the more preferred delivery method, but it actually, to me, if you've got trained people, it's going to reduce problems. It's going to reduce the headaches during the whole process, not increase them, which is normally what happens in CAD.
Yeah. Well, before I get into my horror story, so Neil's got a completely different take on this, I'm sure, because he is a sole proprietor. So, Neil?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily have a different take, but, just like you guys, you like to work with the same sorts of consultants if you can.
No. I want to work with good consultants.
Okay.
The same doesn't really matter to me.
Well,
yes,
let me rephrase that. I mean, when you have a good consultant, you want to keep working with that consultant. And so you tend to, find ones that the challenge, I think, for me has been really going from one part of the industry where you have consultants, from my previous work experience being mostly in production housing, and there's engineers and other consultants that kind of do those types of projects. And then now becoming a sole proprietor, those same consultants and engineers, they don't do the kind of smaller jobs that I'm doing now. And they're completely inappropriate. They just don't do that type of work. It's kind of like having a, mechanical engineer for your school projects trying to do, mechanical layout for a house, right? I mean, it's just, they're
not a good fit. Yeah.
They're not a good fit. And so the challenge for me has been really finding the right consultants to work with that do this type of work, or the type of work that I'm doing now, which is more in the custom home and remodel sort of arena. And finding those people when you don't have the background in that sort of part of the world is much more of a challenge. And so I completely agree, though, with our listener saying that, when you do have good engineers and consultants working with you, the project goes well. There is hopefully good communication happening. And like you were mentioning, Cormac, where your engineer found a problem for you and alerted you to it. The average engineer or the sub-average engineer isn't going to say anything or may not even catch it, and then suddenly everybody's surprised. But having that team attitude amongst your consultants to get a project done is very helpful. I'm currently working on a fairly large remodel, consulting with another firm on it, and it's it's been a challenge in that there's like about 10 different consultants on this project, and all very valid. I mean, we have a pool consultant, we have a solar consultant, we have mechanical, we have electrical, and a number, civil, and all these different people that you have to have for this project. But it almost becomes a full-time job keeping up with all of these different people. Because they're all want question. The electrical engineer needs something from the mechanical, and the mechanical needs something from the electrical, and the electrical needs something from the solar, and it's just they're all coming through you because they won't talk to each other. And in this case, we have some of the consultants we normally use in this office, and so we know them, they know us. But then there's some other consultants that are coming through the client. And so they don't know us, they don't know our team. And so that it's this back and forth, and it becomes a full-time job just managing the consultants, which means, in my case, the guy I'm working with on this was on vacation last week. And so that whole week, I literally got nothing done on the production of actually doing any drawings on this project, because I spent literally my whole week doing nothing but getting something for this person, trying to coordinate, facilitating the email process is a huge nightmare. And so I think that's something that a lot of people, especially, a lot of students may be listening to this when you start, when you come out and you start working in an office, you'll find that, not the architect doesn't do the whole project. We do need these people to get different parts of our jobs done. And, the management of all of those people is part of the job as well. You don't just sit there and design the project and do your architecture and then go away.
Right.
So all of that needs to be collaborated with. And I think, as our listener mentioned, it's like herding cats. It sort of is like herding cats, because they only want to know certain information and they don't care about anything else. And so it's a big challenge, and one I think you guys see on a much larger scale than I do when I'm doing smaller projects.
Well, you just explained my entire job. I literally spend most days, maybe in a week, 10% of it's actually doing either anything production related, like actual drawing or redlining or something like that. Once we get out of the design phase, once we get into once we get past the DD phase and we're now into CDs, it's literally all...
Yeah, it's all coordination.
It's phone calls, it's meetings, it's you name it, it's everything.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because you said that about the students who are listening. First time I took, we had a new employee. She was fresh out of school. They put her on my team, and I like to take all of the more recent graduates and take them out into the field because I want them to see what they're drawing. This line that you're putting in the computer, well, that beam right there is that line. And you got to kind of understand the correlation between the two. So, I'd like to take them out into the field a lot. And so we went through a progress meeting, talking and all this other stuff. I'm, for more or less, kind of running the meeting and everything else. And as we were leaving, they were like, wow, I didn't realize how much management was in it. Well, that's essentially, even with the design phase, that's essentially what we do, right? It's management of some way, thing, or form. It's management of the design, management of the people, management of the, your consultants and engineers and contractors and everybody else, client, it's management of everything.
Yeah.
Which is the collaboration.
All right, so let's take a minute out of the show here to talk about our sponsor for this episode, and that is Architect Exam Prep. And our friend David Doucette over at architectexamprep.com has a study guide for those of you who are studying to pass the NCARB AREs, with the Architects Registration Exams. And, the truth of the matter is, and one of the reasons we do this podcast is because we care a lot about our profession. And we need great people to become licensed architects so that we can take this profession where we want it to go. And that's something that I've been working on really hard over the last couple of years. And one of the things that helps you get to that point is to get these exams out of the way. And David created some really amazing study materials. They're study guides for almost every exam. So what you need to do is head over to archispeakpodcast.com/ARE. And on that page, you can visit the link, get a little bit more info about Architect Exam Prep, and every sale that David makes through that link on our webpage, a little bit of that goes back to Archispeak. So you can not only help support the show, but you can also get a leg up on studying for your exams. And, I have lots of friends who have used his materials, and they swear by them. David's put a lot of effort into these. You will not be disappointed. So go to archispeakpodcast.com/ARE and check it out from there. And we really appreciate it. So, all right, let's get back into the show. All right, so let's talk about collaboration with our consultants. I think collaboration within the office, people want usually to be involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're not, they're kind of sour about it, right? But consultants, like getting back to the original question, was like, it really, most of the time, is they just don't care. It's like, I feel like we compete for these projects. We're going up against other architects, especially in the public realm. There's a lot of heavy competition, and I would say, it's probably the same thing in residential too. I'm sure everybody who's shopping for an architect is shopping 3 or 4 architects, but unless they really know you. So I feel like, we want this job. We are passionate about what we're doing. We're working really hard, and then we end up kind of handing it over to a consultant who is, part of the Good Old Boys Club, who has done a bunch of our work. This is my experience. And it is really like, oh, thanks. And then as the job progresses, it turns into, you're bothering me. And for instance, we did a job kickoff meeting on this project I'm working on, and the milestones and deadlines were announced. We talked about how often Revit releases were going to be posted. Our models go up every Friday. Their models come in every Monday. So I sent out an email last week that says, I have not seen any of your models even once. And it's been 4 weeks. I've sent out a new model every week, and that takes me a lot of time because it's actually not just one model. It's 8 different buildings and a site. And every model has to be cleaned up, things expunged from the model, purged out, put onto the site. A list of changes for each building goes up, and that's been ignored for 4 weeks in a row, is what I hear.
Wow.
Oh, well, we're not going to, we're waiting for your 100% DD model until we put pen to paper in Revit, because we don't want to make any changes. And I'm like, okay, so when we had this collaborative kickoff meeting and no one said a single word about that, and everybody said, yes, we will upload our models every Monday, how does this fit into the equation? It pissed me, and to me, this is the same old crap.
Yeah.
It's the same crap all the time that we get. And do we still hire these people? Yes, we do, because they're the cheapest. And we play the same game that we don't want our clients to play with us.
Right.
And it pisses me off. Or
the contractors to play and everything else, and we do the same thing.
Because we're freaking spineless.
No, well, we've got that, but we also have, especially, you guys and us doing public work, buildings, school buildings, things like that, that they literally are, not only are they, when they go to contractors, they're looking for the low bidder, they're also looking for the low bid on architects.
Oh, of course.
Okay, well, If
and to
you
accomplish
don't-
that, you need the low bid on the consultants.
Right. So you need to lowball the consultants, and then you say, well, maybe we don't need that or that or that.
You know
or
what I
that.
call this? This is the race to the bottom.
Yeah. I
Where does that lead? It leads to going bankrupt.
I'm currently pulling together an additional services proposal to send off to our client, and as they come in, I'm looking at them and I'm like, I don't know if totaling it all up, and I'm like, I don't think the client's going to really go for that. And then I have to turn around and lowball, try to squeeze a little bit more out of the consultants to get to a magic number because we're informed that any money that you ask additional is coming out of the construction budget.
Yeah.
And this is the project that I keep talking about, that
And you
we
know
have
what?
to keep pulling money out of the project.
And so again, this leads to, like today, I get a call from my electrical. He's talking to me about plumbing for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, they are the same firm who's doing plumbing, but he's not the plumbing engineer. And he's like, did you guys move the sinks in the classrooms to the other side of the counter? Yeah, we did. And to me, this isn't a problem because they haven't started their Revit model, right?
Right.
Even if it was, not a big deal. Like, we go through some insanely, incredibly huge changes from week to week based on client and consultant input.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of the job. So you know what he tells me? He's like, wow, it's a really good thing we didn't start this in Revit before, because this would have been a huge change. And I'm like, really? To move a sink over? Oh, yeah, this would have been a huge change. And I'm thinking, again, I have to think, this guy has no clue what it takes to actually do the work, because I know. I actually build these Revit models, guys. I know what it takes to do this, and that is incredibly simple, and you can't bullshit me like that.
And what's even worse about that is even up through, and I don't know about your MEP guys, but even up through, like, say, 50% CDs, they're still doing single line.
Single line, yep.
And you're like, are you kidding me?
How can I coordinate anything?
Right.
How do you wait until 50% CDs until I can actually start coordinating anything?
And say you're supposed to, which was what my blood started to boil when you were talking about, well, we're not going to, we're not going to do anything until 100% DDs, until we get your 100%. Well, the whole point of me doing this DD process is for me to flush out what major items I need to include into this, because I also need to. So now you're telling me, because of your single line drawings have now miraculously at 50% started to pop up and become real ductwork. And now I have 36-inch wide duct going down my corridors that don't fit into this existing building. Now I need to build bulkheads. Well, my DD estimate didn't have,
Bulkheads,
a whole 270,000 square feet of bulkheads in them, because now I have to do this, or, we came up with a really interesting solution in one project, and thankfully, and we'll go to the good side of the collaboration, where
let's make this positive.
where we had a really good engineering company that worked with us through design development, because here we are adding, doing the bulk of the renovation was, major systemics, completely ripping out all of their old HVAC, what little they actually had, and coming in and putting in, a new modern system. So we've got ductwork where they would normally never have ductwork. Well, because these are old 1960s buildings, we don't have a floor-to-ceiling height that is conducive to running the ductwork above the ceiling, unless we want like 6'5" ceilings.
What's wrong with that?
So in an elementary school, that's fine. And
Yeah, right.
It is an elementary school.
Tall kids don't apply.
But so what we ended up doing was, I had proposed, well, what if we basically, because
Let's Pompidou Center this thing.
Well, it was in a way, you say that, but in a way, that's kind of what we did. Well, it's a post and beam, it's basically columns and beams and then all of the walls and the windows and stuff are basically just infill. So I said, okay, we've got columns and beams on either side of the corridor. What if we basically rip the roof off of the corridor, the full length, and we build a doghouse on top of the corridor and run everything above the old structure rather than below the old structure?
Brilliant.
We're going to have to pipe down and drop some bulkheads to get underneath the duct. The bottom of the beam was at like 9'2", and so with the duct, I had to have certain areas where I ended up turning it into a design feature, but took the ductwork and went underneath, and the ceiling was at 8 feet. Everywhere else it was at 9 feet, and it was nice and comfortable and worked. But then so we put everything on top. But that was because of a collaboration between the architect and the engineers. If I would have had to have waited to get any input from them till DD, I mean, literally would have had to have redesigned the entire building.
Right.
To get that ductwork to actually work. So, whereas you were talking about a horror story, I actually...
Oh, there are some positives, yeah.
Yeah. And it all really depends on, the type of teams, and we've said it early on, it's the type of expectations you set early on in the project.
Sometimes...
do you ever... Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
I was just going to say, sometimes even though you set an expectation, things still fall down. I had a situation where a structural engineer, I told him the deadline. We got it's no problem. And then, this guy's going to be on vacation that week. Okay, with the engineer working on the project. Oh, well, that's not a problem. So-and-so knows he'll have the drawings sent out. You'll get them on this day. Okay, great. So I, check again. Everything's fine. Okay, great. So that morning, I'm waiting for my drawings. No drawings.
Love it when they don't. They either let you know the day before or the day of that they're not going to make the deadline.
Oh no. This was, well, like I said, the one guy left on vacation, so the other guy's supposed to pick up the ball and make sure I get the drawings right. So, that day, no drawings. Call him up. Where's my drawings? Oh, let me check on that. Oh no, sorry, blew it. Didn't go out. I'll have to send those out. Oh, it's too late now today. You won't get them tomorrow because it's too late today. You won't get them till the next day. So 2 days go by. Well, now suddenly I look like a fool because I'm telling my client, okay, I've got the engineering coming in on, let's just say Monday. You'll have your drawings. They'll be submitted Monday afternoon. Now it's not Monday afternoon, but it's Wednesday before I can submit. And oh, by the way,
it's your fault. Yep.
The deadline at the city for a particular, I forget what it was, was Tuesday or something, and so now suddenly I'm the day after, and it just turned into a nightmare. And who is to blame? Who's the client looking at in this case? Me. So here's the case where the the engineer in this case is completely faceless to the client. They don't even know who this person is. Right. They don't care.
They don't exist to the client.
They don't exist to the client. You are the one who falls flat on the face. And, so the answer at the end of the day is, you suck it up and you look like a fool and you apologize and, you move on, right? And you don't, it'd be nice to call them out, but you just have to take your lumps. Say, I apologize. This didn't work out. We had some snafus. It's going to be a little late, but the resolution to that is, I didn't use that engineer ever again.
Yeah. Well, you've got that, that one's good. You also have the whole. They send you like clockwork their pay apps. Their invoices.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem. I always
you
get
to hold
those,
that
right?
over their head. But actually, here, so. As part of, and Evan was kind of talking about mapping it all out and, developing the schedule and developing all the milestones and, your critical submissions and all of that other stuff. So if I establish with the client all of that stuff, I always back it up a minimum of a week, if not a little bit more, for
You
the
got to pad it.
consultants.
Yeah.
So I always pad it, only so that doesn't happen, because when that does happen, oh, I so hate that. I mean, you want to get my blood boiling, miss a deadline.
Well, that's why it's important as the architect, that we talked earlier about, the management of all of this, and is that you can't let it go. You have to stay on top of it. You call 2 days before. Is everything okay? Are we looking good? We're going to have it on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, right? And then you call the day before, tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, right? You just have to keep doing that. But that goes back to what we were talked about earlier, where it becomes a full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a babysitter for all of these people. And as our listener first said at this top of the show, it's like herding cats. You have to stay on top of these people because, and to their credit, I mean, to give them some credit, your job is not the only one they're likely working on, right? I mean, they're working on a half dozen or more different projects as well. And so the squeaky wheel gets the grease here.
So be the squeaky wheel.
So be the squeaky. I guess that's what I'm saying, is that, you got to be the squeaky wheel.
Your job has to be the most important.
Well, whether it is or not, you have to make sure that your job is getting the attention that it needs, so that it stays on time. Because if you don't do that, it'll fall by the wayside for them. And then, especially, when I worked for a larger production housing firm, architectural firm, we had, and you guys probably have this too, and those of you in the industry will probably, your firm has, what they call their A clients, their B clients, and maybe C clients. And I'm sure consultants have the same thing for architects. He's an A architect, he's a B architect, and a C architect, right? Well, the C architect is the guy that,
architect.
No, yeah, not that. I didn't say that. But that's the architect who probably gives them one project a year, or something like that. And the B architect is giving them, more jobs. And that A architect is, hey, he calls, you take his call. They're giving us, they're 50% of our annual revenue comes from these people. So, those are the guys you need to hop on. Well, if you're that, unfortunate C architect in this case, who's not going to get the full attention, you have to try and do what you can to get that attention from your consultants. And that means staying on top of them, communicating with them. And really, you can't assume that your project is their most important one. And so, you really can't ever assume these types of things, and you have to stay on top of it. And over time, as you develop a better relationship with your consultants, you'll get to know them, you'll know what they're doing, and everybody becomes more of a team, right? Because you're all working together more on a consistent basis.
Yeah, but don't stand up for their BS. Fire them. Get a new consultant. I mean, show them that their work is not standing up, and get someone in there who's going to. It's not worth it to just keep bending and bending and bending until it finally breaks, and give them another chance and give them another chance. It only seems to get worse.
Oh yeah, because your work is going to suffer from their poor work.
Yeah.
When you're walking through a building and you're just like, oh, I didn't realize that was there.
Yeah. Oh man.
You're just
totally. Or really conservative. You're going to trying to do something really elegant, and they're being really conservative. And again, you don't catch that.
Right.
That beam or that column that's oversized, and you wanted it to be thin, and it's like, oh, what were they? Come on, we should have pushed that one a little further.
Oh, you got that RFI today too?
Yeah.
Because I did.
Jeez. So, yeah, bringing it back to kind of the positive side of the collaboration again, I just want to, something that we should probably talk about real quick here is kind of the digital age of collaboration. I know a lot of people out there are starting to collaborate, over GoToMeeting and over Dropbox and over Evernote. And I don't know if you guys have much experience with that, but It's becoming more and more of a trend or a back channel that is starting to negate the need for proximity. And so I think being able to work with engineers who aren't near you, or any kind of consultant, is becoming more and more of a possibility. So you guys have any tips or experience with that kind of thing?
I do that quite a bit, actually. My structural engineer that I use on all of my remodels and things like that. I mean, he lives in the Bay Area here, in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I mean, he's probably a 45-minute drive from where I'm at, and we actually never meet for any of our projects physically. Yeah, we collaborate over the phone.
Define meet. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But we still go a little more old school. At least, I mean, we're collaborating over the phone and through emails as far as sending files back and forth and collaborating. But we do that. We do that quite a bit. We're not necessarily doing any sort of go-to-meeting type activities. Although when I first started, I didn't really do any CAD work because I hadn't done it in many years, and I was using a friend of mine who lived in Florida. And that was sort of a little different. It wasn't a collaboration with, he was a consultant of mine. And so, I mean, in that case, we both have Macs, and we were just using the built-in tools that Apple provides in the Macintosh operating system to basically like share screens. And we were doing design where basically I was looking at his screen. I'd take over his mouse and point and click on things and say, no, I want it like this, like that. And I mean, we were literally doing a live collaboration right over the internet, looking at his screen or he's looking at mine. It was almost as if I was standing over his shoulder and pointing at his screen. And
that's cool.
And it was so cool. It was like, I didn't need to have an employee here doing the actual work for me. I was helping out a friend of mine who was unemployed at the time in Florida, and I had a job here I needed help with, and we could do it that way. So it was a great way to extend my office, not just beyond the consultant that would be like the engineer providing the service that, I'm not doing, but in this case, actually collaborating with another architect to help me do stuff. And I know that's been kind of popular. I know Mark's talked about it recently on one of his podcasts as well, kind of the virtual office idea. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. I haven't done it as much with other consultants that I work with because I'm finding that, at least in some residential, and especially in the custom residential stuff, I don't know, things seem to be a little bit more, or maybe it's just the one firm I'm consulting with right now is a little more old school. It's, the engineer that I'm working with right now, I mean, he's still on like AutoCAD 2004. And in fact, I'm only doing AutoCAD 2010 in the office I'm consulting with right now. And it's like literally when I was sending files to him, I'd forget and I'd send him the 2010 file. I'd get an email back from him. Can you send that in 2004 format again? Yeah. Whoops. Sorry about that. I can't open it. Yeah, exactly. So, so there's all kinds of things like that. You mentioned Evernote. I'm working on this one project in this firm, and I'm taking notes. I'm using Evernote for that. And then I'm actually sharing that notebook with a coworker in the office, because while he was on vacation, he could keep up with the meeting notes. And I mentioned earlier, we have a whole bunch of consultants on this project. And as they've been tied down, we got bids and we selected different consultants. As I basically created a list of consultants, and that's in Evernote and that's shared with him. So we all have access to that information. Their office doesn't have kind of a common database of contacts and, project type data that everyone can access. So in this case, we're actually using Evernote to kind of do that.
Yeah, and you could do that with tags, and you can have business cards and all kinds of stuff in there.
Exactly. And we're not taking it that far yet, but at least for note taking and who's working on the project, who's doing what, we're using it just, kind of dipping our toes into the water a little bit with that. So that's something that we're working on, or working with, or rather I'm working with, just to find it easy.
I use Evernote for every project like that, where I keep all the consultants' cards in there. I'll use my phone and take a photo of their card, and Evernote automatically recognizes it and adds them as a contact. And I just keep that in the project directory, so that, in Evernote, so that everything that I keep is shared with my team, and it's in there. So if you need to find whoever the structural is, or whoever the metal panel consultant is, or it doesn't matter. Now, you go in there and you just do a search, metal panel,
right,
and it pops them up, and call Brad. Here's his phone number.
But I got a question for you then. Is that something you are doing on your own as you manage your projects, or is that like a company-wide?
No, it's me, because there's 4 people working on my project. It's not 200 people in the company.
Right.
So
right.
I think and I just put some links into the show notes for collaboration tools. There are definitely some, if you want to get out of the bombardment of email and you want to make it project specific, I think you probably want to get away from email, and you want to get into something like a shared notebook in Evernote, or you want to look at some of the links that I put in there for Slack is a new one. It looks really cool for, kind of archiving of messaging and email and project files and all kinds of stuff. There's Igloo, there's GoToMeeting. We use GoToMeeting all the time for doing screen sharing meetings, and it's fantastic. And then there's Basecamp. There's so many out there, and you got to find the one that works well for you. But I think that, the proliferation of these tools is really showing everyone that there are better ways to work, and it goes beyond file sharing. Right. And it goes way beyond FTP. Like FTP no one's ever liked FTP, and there's no reason to still be using it. I mean, we use the crappy SharePoint, but at least there it's project specific, right? Which is a big deal. So all of our consultants upload their PDFs and their CAD files and their Revit models there every week. We upload ours, and everything's in one place. There's never an excuse of why you can't find something that way.
Yeah, we use a database, basically just a project management tool called Newforma. Everybody on the team uses it, including all the consultants. Everybody's, can share. Anytime I set a meeting, I set it up through Newforma. It links to my Outlook. It automatically sends, these updates and reminders and everything else to all the consultants. And it's just a good tool to be able to share. You can do other things like, we do the GoToMeeting and stuff like that, but,
that one's specifically for architecture.
Yeah, but I will say this, that even though there are a lot of good tools out there for file sharing, for, doing meetings and all of that other stuff, what we always do is, especially when we're in the heat of both DDs and CDs, is every 2 weeks, project meeting, everybody's in the same room, face to face, because in complex projects, you just gotta.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, you have to be there brainstorming. Some people are going to be sitting in there thinking, I really, shouldn't be here. I don't know why I'm here. I should be, back in the office or whatever. But you know what? That one thing that one person says that, everybody's on the same sheet. Everybody knows the same thing as everybody else. But that one thing that one person asks that, say, a structural engineer needs to do something that's going to affect the civil engineer. It's a good thing that civil engineer was in that meeting, because
sitting right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yep.
As much as I do believe in all of the tools, because trust me, all of these tools do make, my life and my management life and all of the miscellaneous things, like, all the great tools for taking field notes and, site photos and punch lists and all this other stuff that are just like these mundane things that, or what we think are mundane things.
That end up sucking your day away.
Right. Are things that, like when I walk around and I type in whatever I need to rather than writing it down, if I just go that, couple extra minutes and type it in, take the photograph, all with, on my iPad, and I'm using, my punch list app, it automatically goes back to the Office database as long as I've got a connection. It goes back to the Office database. When I get back to the Office database,
They're already working on it. Yeah.
I say, generate report. And it generates a report. It puts in all of the photographs. It puts in all of the markups that I've done. Everything's compiled together. And then all I have to do is hit, email report.
Yeah. And that's all.
Sends it on the way.
Is that all in new out of New Forma you mentioned?
That's all in New Forma for us.
We'll have a link in the show notes to all these different ones.
It's a great tool. A lot of people, it's in comparison to, like, say, the Proforma or, all of these other things that the contractors use. But it's just more inherent and a little bit more, it kind of flows better for architects and engineers to use something like that. And I've gotten a lot of favorable things. It's like, hey, I sent out and I get an RFI from the contractor. I log it into New Forma. I forward it off to whoever needs to review it before it comes back to me for me to do the final review and send it off. But say you only get, by contract, you only get a week to review the RFI. I set a little reminder that says 2 days before it's due, it's going to send an email every morning. There'll be an email sitting in their thing saying, this this RFI is due. And then if it goes past due, then I have it set where it sends 2 emails a day, to keep reminding them, hey, you got to get this.
Squeaky wheel.
And exactly.
Goes back to the squeaky wheel.
9 times out of 10, they'll be like, hey, I keep getting this email about this RFI. I was like, well, did you answer the RFI? No. Well, when you answer the RFI, the emails will stop. So you want them to stop? You answer that RFI.
Cormac, that just brings to mind a couple of things. But the first one is that in dealing with one of my former jobs working for a developer as a project manager and forward planner was to deal with cities. And I'm sure you guys can sympathize with this, dealing with school boards and school districts and things like that. But in dealing with the planning staff and different aspects of the different jurisdictions I've worked in, they're notoriously very busy. They have lots of different things to do, and when you're trying to develop a project and get through the final, map stage and improvement plans and different aspects like that, it's really hard to get answers. And so one of the tricks that I would always do, and this kind of goes, a little bit to what you were just saying about the emails, is I'll call them and usually have to leave a message and say, looking for, whatever the message is, and then let it, look forward to getting your call back or whatever. And then, if they don't call back in a day or two, or depending on when I need the information, I'll call them again and I'll leave another message and say, basically end the message with, I will call you tomorrow morning, and just tell them that. And then usually we'll prompt a call back. I'll get a call back because they know I'm telling them, I will call you tomorrow if I do not get this answer. And then if I really need the answer, if they're really ignoring me, I'll call them in the morning and I'll say, I'm going to call you back after lunch today. And then after lunch, I'll call back. If I have to leave another message, I'll call you back tomorrow morning. And essentially, it's the email thing that you just said, but I'm doing it, verbally, because these guys sometimes don't respond to any emails either. So if you call and you tell them you're calling them again, I guarantee you 10 times out of 10, you'll get that call back. They will call you back. And so that's a little trick that I picked up when I was having to deal with people that notoriously didn't want to call you back, because the difference is that when you have consultants that are working for you or with you on a project, they're motivated to at least respond to you, to collaborate with you when you're and to meet your deadline, right? I mean, because they're going to get paid, you're going to get paid, everybody's happy. When you're dealing with public agencies, there's no motivation on their side. I mean, they don't work for you. I had a boss once tell me, everybody who worked for him, or everybody who worked on his projects, he was in land development, they all worked for him. He said, jump. They all said, how high? We'll get out there. We'll grade this thing. We'll do, whatever it was. They all worked for him. And so he'd look at me as as forward planner and say, Neil, why haven't you got a response from the city on this? Why can't you get this through the city in a week or 2 days? Why do you have to, why can't you get these people to jump? And it was like, my response was, they don't work for me. And they're not paid by me. They're not paid by our clients. And so it's much harder. So that was kind of a method I developed. And, I'm not the first person to actually think of this, I'm sure. It was just to tell them, I'm going to call you back. And this is when I'll call you back, unless I get a response prior to that. So anyway, that's a little tiny side note. But back to what you were talking about the Nuforma information. That sounds really cool. And another tool that I've used in the past for more inner office, and it also deals with financial side of it as well, is Archispeak, which is another program similar to what you were talking about with Nuforma, where everything kind of can collaborate together, and it also takes you the next step to dealing with your financial management as well on the project. So that's another tool. We'll have a link in the show notes for people to check out if they're interested in that. It kind of takes it takes Evernote, what you were saying, Evan, about Evernote and sharing the contacts of people involved in a project. You can actually, through this program, it'll do that for you. You can assign, your existing contacts that are in your main database to a particular job. So if you look up the project notes on a job, it'll tell you who all the consultants were, and give you their contract information, and files, financial reports. It's very cool. It does a lot of different things. I've had an opportunity.
That's for architecture, right?
And that's really for architect. I mean, it was created by an architect,
right?
For his own firm at the time, and yeah, well, that guy maybe needs to be shot, but
from someone who doesn't use it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sorry, but anyway.
Another tip that I would just bring up real quick in closing, maybe, and I think most people know to do this, but because we were talking a little bit about this before the show with Cormac and his archiving of every email ever. Any phone call that you have, always memorialize it afterward in an email. Yeah. Because a lot of, you need to go back and find what was said regarding this and that, and a lot of those things happen over the phone. And so it makes a lot of sense to just say, okay, here's a follow-up email. I'm just memorializing what we agreed to and discussed over the phone. These 3 bullet points. If you have any comments, please reply. And that's it. And then you have something that's searchable at some point, and that really has saved us a lot of times. And I know this is exactly what you were talking about before, Cormac, where people come back later and say, we would have never said that. And then you say, well, check your inbox because you did. And, yeah. And it really does settle disputes quickly. And if somebody just said, well, I would have never said that, and it was just a phone call, you're kind of screwed. So
right, yeah, because then you always, when you do that email, you say, please let me know if I've misunderstood, the intent or this, that, or the other, just so that, you've made the statement, this is what I understand the issue to be. If if I've misrepresented what you said, or if or if you have a different, direction, please let me know. Otherwise, that's it. That's the last thing. That's the direction to go with, and they're either by their silence or their acknowledgement,
yes, exactly.
They're letting you, you're moving forward.
Good little tip there.
That's a pro tip.
So if anybody is misinterpreting anything we said on the show tonight, please make sure you respond in the comments to the show notes.
If you're misinterpreting, you're wrong.
And if you've misinterpreted everything that we've said, let us know.
Exactly. All right, guys. I think that's a wrap.
Yep. Hey, don't forget to check out the Facebook page for the ALS videos and to donate at archispeakpodcast.com/donate. And any donation that comes in between now and our next recording is going to go toward ALS in the name of the Archispeak podcast and all of our listeners.
Yep.
Thank you in advance for donating, and thanks again for listening.
All right. See you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
What you get. This is what you get. This is a schedule. This is a set. It's unpredictable as you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know. This is what you get. This is a schedule. This is a set. It's unpredictable as you forget. If you blow, you can